Hey, what's up, everybody? We are here live on the Anchored Voice podcast, helping men to anchor life. And I'm your host, Dr. Phil, too. I'm here with my brother, Oliver Marcelle, and I'm so happy that he has come to join us on this podcast. This is a live podcast, but we're also recording it for our audio. You can check this out on Apple Podcasts, on Google Play, on Stitcher, on Spotify, and we're so happy. So, right after this, we'll bring in my brother, Oliver Marcel, and we're going to talk about the definition of manhood. Here we go. The Anchored Voice. Welcome to the Anchored Voice. This is a podcast helping men to anchor life. I'm your host, Dr. Phil, too. Welcome to the program. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us here on The Anchored Voice. And I'm your host, Dr. Phil, too. And here, we have another podcaster in the house. He's also a marriage mentor, soon to be author, working on a few projects. Lovely, wonderful, great, awesome. A video cast that he does with his wife as well. You definitely want to check it out. Please, everybody, welcome Oliver Marcel. What's up, bro?
What's good, man? Thank you. I appreciate you having me on, man. It's a privilege, man, to come on and chop it up with you, my friend.
Yeah, man. Yeah, definitely. This is a podcast helping men to anchor life. And, we're constantly looking at how we can help men anchor this life. What happens with life is starts off one way and sometimes it just ends up being another way. We sometimes don't we don't get what we expected to get, but we work with what we work with. And this is how we deal. And the topic for today is the definition of manhood. The definition of manhood. Now, when we think of it, really, to deal with the punches of life, to deal with the storms of life, is all about manhood. To deal with all the things that didn't go as expected is also a part of manhood. And so, men, we find ourselves in various positions, various stresses, various, um, I guess, circumstances that sometimes we question our own selves, question, hey, am I a good father? Am I a good husband? What is it that I am? Who am I? Have I defined myself? Well,
Mhm.
that's all part of manhood. Welcome to manhood. Matter of fact, New Edition had a song called Boys to Men. And then the group Boys to Men came out, and really that's the topic that we deal with.
Man,
So yeah.
you said it. You said it, man. It's everything that you just talked about, man. It encompasses the the role, the experiences, the processes that happen, the journey that takes place as it relates from going to from a young man, into adulthood. It's just there are some. You talk about the definition, right? The definition of manhood. It's interesting because that definition sometimes is um, a little bit skewed. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's based off of some ideology maybe that we got from our family of origin or that we got from the streets if we were one of those kids that hung out a lot. And so I think sometimes we kind of grow up with this. Well, I'll speak for myself. We grow up with this kind of vision about what manhood should be, which sometimes is a little bit skewed based on and we
Hmm.
realize that when we get into some of those experiences that you just talked about. We get into some of those life experiences, man. You become a father, you become a husband, and you begin
Yeah.
to see that, wait a minute, some of these things that, that I've held on, these ideologies that I've held on to, um, as it relates to the definition of a man, in actuality need to be reevaluated.
Absolutely. And for a man, it's you hear the term man up, and we forget that manning up also deals with our vulnerabilities.
Hmm.
It deals with our faults. It deals with the things that we don't do well as the things that we do great. So when somebody says to man up, what are you talking about? Well, sometimes they mean just choke it up, suck it up.
Hmm.
Sometimes you're dealing with a lot of pain and you're dealing with a lot of hurt. And how do you deal with that as a man? How do you really go through that? I mean, the way this nation is with the unrest, it's all about dealing with men's situation and finding the balance of, man, how much do I fight, how much do I let go, and how do I make that definition? Would you say that the definition of manhood is one solid definition, or will it apply to men just in general, depending on how their makeup is? How would you define that?
I think that I'll use this analogy, right, as it relates to manhood. Manhood is like a cake, right? So if you think about a cake, there are some basic ingredients that have to go into every cake.
Hmm.
There has to be some sugar. There has to be some flour. I'm not a baker at all, so I'm winging it right now. But there has to be some sugar, I would imagine. There has
Yeah,
to be
yeah,
some
yeah, yeah.
flour. There has to be maybe some butter. There has to be some eggs. Those are some things that go into every cake across the board.
Yeah,
However, every cake is not a chocolate cake.
that's right.
You have pineapple upside down. You have pound cake. You have a plethora of cakes, right? A myriad of cakes.
That's
But
right.
all of those cakes have some basic ingredients, and that's what I like in manhood too. I believe that as it relates to the definition of manhood, there are some basic ingredients that all men should possess. You should be a man of your word. You should have some integrity about you. There's certain things that you just should have. However, every man's going to be different, and every mold of that man is going to be different. So if you think about back to the cake analogy, right? You have the bundt pan, you have a flat pan, you have a foil pan, you have the glass pan, you have all these different pans that make all these different shape and size of cake. But at the
Hmm.
end of the day, it's a cake. And
Yeah.
so to answer your question, I don't think that it's an across the board definition. I think that it's not static in the sense that every man is going to fit into this particular mold. Every man is going to process things this way. Every man is going to their journey is going to be down this same path. I don't believe that. I think that it is dynamic in nature. I think that there are several experiences, several actions, several convictions that happen throughout the course of a man's life, that if he has those basic ingredients as a part of his makeup, then the end result will be the cake, whatever that particular cake is for his set of experiences and his circumstances. So that's what I believe when it comes to the definition of a man. And to go back to what we were saying before, I think a lot of us, we weren't given that, right?
Mm.
We were
Hmm.
given this set of man laws, if you will. Man won't cry, and
Yeah.
some of these things that just became very static definitions of manhood. And then if we couldn't fit into those, then we felt some kind of way about ourselves, and we started to
Yeah.
evaluate ourselves in an unhealthy manner. But I don't believe that it's static. I think there's some very dynamic um, aspects to this thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And for a man to hear those words, man up, and suck it up, it's almost like, well, you can't be weak, because if you're weak, you're not a man. And then, if you're a Christian, God says, I thrive in your weakness.
Right,
You know what I'm saying? He's like, they're like, man, but am I supposed to be weak? And
right.
how strong am I supposed to be? And if I follow Jesus, if I'm a Christian, man, what does that look like as
Mm,
well? And I think you said something great. You were dealing with something about fathers, and dealing with Father's Day and, just the definition of a father. Some people say, man, you make a perfect father, or you have the elements of a perfect father. But again, every father is going to be different. What's going to work for me is going to work for me. What's going to work for you? Everybody has to deal with life the way they do it.
Yep.
You know, um,
Exactly.
some marriages didn't work out, but your fatherhood is still in play.
Still in. Yep. Still intact.
And I'm one example of that. Marriage didn't work out, but yet I still have to be a father. I have to drive the extra miles to make things work. I have to say the extra things. I have to do the extra things just to make sure, there's a balance there.
Yep.
Um, and I think sometimes the world doesn't know how to handle when men have to deal with it. And we try to put everything in one cake. You know what I'm saying? It's like there are
Hmm.
different elements to that cake. And, you may like there, all right, put it like this. There's certain cakes I get on my plate, and then there's a icing I may not like, but I like the cake.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? I just
Yep.
got to kind of take off the icing
Yep.
and deal with the inside. Sometimes I get
And
that
here's the crazy.
strawberry shortcake, and
Mhm.
I may not like all the things that go in it, but I do like the elements around it, and you start working with that.
Yep. And that's a beautiful analogy, because here's the thing, right? You talked about individuals, and you mentioned yourself. You're vulnerable enough to mention yourself, that where there are certain things that don't work out as it relates to our role, right?
Yep.
Whatever role that we have taken on, whether it be a husband or whatever it is. But at the end of the day, the um, the if you go through those things, right, and they don't come out right, that is not a depiction of who you are as a man, right? Those are
Right.
experiences that you've gone through as a man that maybe did not turn out the way you would have liked for them to turn out. But it
That's
does
right.
not speak to the cake. Just like you talked about the icing. You don't like the icing. The icing doesn't make the cake inedible.
That's right.
You you learn by moving that stuff off your plate, and you keep it moving. And so that's something, I mean, that's encouraging, man. And for folk who are listening, that's a very encouraging thing you just brought up, man, because we often get down, man. I'll be the first to admit, man, we look at disappointments in the face, and we look at certain failures in the face, and we evaluate ourselves against either our own standard, or unfortunately, we against the standard of others that we see, and beat ourselves up about where we are in this process, and what our efficacy is as a man, or as a father, as a leader, as a husband. It's not about that, man. It's about
Yeah.
recognizing where the gaps are, filling in those gaps as need be, some self-actualization that takes place, man. And you move off the things that don't work, and you continue on a journey. I love it. I
I
love
think
how
for
you put that.
men, we have to definitely pour into ourselves. We have to evaluate ourselves and really move forward in the way that we see is best for us. And, not every situation is best for us. Not every friend, not every scenario is best for us. Not every job is best for us. Not every opportunity is the opportunity we have to take. So we have to now go within ourselves and reevaluate what has worked, what hasn't worked. Failure is not a problem. It
Right.
is the problem that we don't learn from our failure. It is the problem that we don't conquer after, the event is done or after the situation is done. We fall, and then now in our fallen state, we start comparing ourselves to one that we don't think is falling.
Right.
But we don't know what that man went through to get to where he is on that happy day. And man, we cannot look at Instagram, Facebook,
Oh no.
or social media to even compare ourselves, because those are pictures of a moment in time.
Yep.
And I can tell you, even in your worst marriage, even in a marriage, you could look back to a woman that you got divorced from, and you look back, you can find one happy moment there.
Indeed.
It could be just a wedding day, I don't know, but you can find one happy moment and you snapshot that one happy moment. Not everybody thinks you're happy. Snapshots does not determine happiness. It is a
Not at all.
consistent marathon of life
Yep.
that we all deal with. So we're just here to encourage men. Many people try to define who you're supposed to be and how you are, but at the end of the day, it's that man who keeps getting back up. That's the true man. The one that keeps dealing with adversity and learning how to overcome adversity. Somebody said that, uh, really, if you're tired, it's all about learning when to rest.
Hmm.
And, sometimes you got to take a step back. I learned, too, I can get so busy, I stop reading, or I can get so busy, I stop using my Audible book and I stop feeding myself. Then I feel empty after a while.
Right.
And so, in order to conquer manhood, you have to feed yourself. You have to not only reevaluate your decisions and think about it. If you're a single man, you have to now make a decision how my life is going to be before I bring that young lady into my life,
Hmm.
before I bring my partner into my life. What man am I? Who am I? What am I dealing with? Because a lot of reasons why people get angry at their partner is because they did not understand who they were first. So when that other person is confident in who they are, there's a conflict there.
Right.
And, because you did not settle things out in your life before you partnered up, now you're seeing a reflection of yourself. You don't like it.
Yep.
And now you're getting angry. So
Yep.
it's all about reevaluating yourself and the decisions that you're making. Because if you find yourself continuing getting the same cake and eating it too, then the problem is not with the cake.
Right. Right.
If you have to keep getting a slice of cake, and keep taking off the icing every time, then the problem is not with the cake.
Right.
The problem is you haven't reevaluated. Do I like gold cake? Do I like chocolate cake? Do I like red velvet cake? Do I like banana cake? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do I
Exactly.
like bun cake?
Right.
Right?
You got
You've
to look.
got to realize, what do you want in life?
Yep. You have to look at it. You have to evaluate. There is a certain level of self actualization that has to take place. Has to, because and for a lot of us, I'll speak from my own experience. For many of us, that happens later on in life, right? So you hear the phrase hindsight is 2020, right? And so I'm working on I'm finishing up a book right now that is actually
Yes.
geared to men.
Yes.
And in the very beginning of the book, right, I dedicate the book to two types of individuals. One, I dedicated to people like my son. So my son is 17. So I dedicate it to my son and all the young men like him. And then the
Hmm.
next sentence I say is, may you achieve 2020 before hindsight.
Nice. I
Because
love
I
it.
didn't do that. For me,
Yeah.
I went through a whole lot of foolishness, and I clung on to a whole bunch of false ideologies, and then got to this period in my life where I really was forced into that self actualization mode. And to be able to do that, you're talking about young men before they get married and before they, get with their partner and before they go into business and before they, take on these heavy responsibilities. To be able to go through that period of self actualization, finding out who you are, what are your passions, what are the things that are important to you, what are your whys, and being able to walk into a situation with that, that
Yeah.
is that's like having gold in your pocket.
Oh yeah, 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 absolutely. And I've learned that. I've learned that, and I had to make some critical decisions of my life. What I'm going to do in certain scenarios where it could have gone wrong. And sometimes you realize God has blessed you to overcome some circumstances that, when you look back at your life, you're like, "Woo! Had I gotten in that situation,
Hmm.
man." And you need friends around you to help you with that. You need friends around you that will in one of our podcasts we talk about male to male relationships. It's about having that brother who's going to look out for you. I remember, back in as a teenager, being in a dark club, and my cousin dancing with somebody that was not his type,
Mhm.
and he couldn't see in the dark, but I could see. I'm kind of looking around. I'm like, bruh, you got to give that brother like,
That ain't right.
like step away before you wreck yourself. Check yourself before you wreck yourself. And you need that partnership. You need that brother around you
Yes,
that's
indeed.
definitely going to help you out and say, hey, listen, man, I don't know, because part of manhood is all about understanding decisions as well.
Mhm.
Decisions that you make early on is going to impact the decisions that you will have to make later on.
Right.
So, yeah, I'm young. I made this decision now. I can do whatever I want. I can go get this job or whatever. But you've got to understand the sacrifices you're making for your future when you're making a decision now. Is this worth making this decision today?
Mhm.
Because if I make this decision today and it wasn't the right decision, and I knew it then.
Mhm.
Something in my spirit told me then. My mother told me then. My friends told me then. Then what we try to do in this podcast is help you early on in this life, to help you see 2020 before hindsight.
Full hindsight.
That is a perfect line, man. And and that's why you need us around. You need us to say, hey, man, you keep making these decisions, it's it's not going to work out for you. It's going
Yep.
to impact your job. It's going to impact your future. It's going to impact how you deal with your relationship, your family. All of that stuff impacts. So if we can help men today make better decisions today, that's going to impact, especially financial decision. I'm going to have to really get into a podcast just straight financial talk,
Yeah.
because I tell you, young men, if you're watching, your financial decisions at 20 is very critical.
Take it from your boy. I got story after story. It's very critical, and it's important what you said too, man. I would actually encourage folks who men who have actually gone through the process and have gotten to a point of self actualization, and they have gotten to a point where they're kind of at a cruising altitude, and they've learned some things and they've unlearned some things. I would encourage those men to take some folk under your wing, man. Let them observe you.
Yeah,
Let them, take them through a training period, if you will, where they get to kind of do some things and learn some things, and pour into those folks so that their road doesn't have to look like yours.
that's right.
That's my whole thing, man, with this thing that I'm writing, is that there are some bumps and bruises that I experienced. There's some flat tires that I experienced along the way. There was some really bad accidents, and if I could tell you, hey,
Come
listen,
on.
man, when you go outside right now, make sure you go left and
Mm,
go around the block.
that's right.
Don't go right, because it's a really big hole. You're gonna tear your
Oh, man.
car up. If I could tell somebody that and save them from that, man, I think that's what it's all about. And often
Yeah.
we don't do that, right? I think that's
Mm-mm.
something that we sometimes it was kind of ingrained in us as men. I
Yeah.
got mine, you got to get yours. I learned the hard way. You're gonna have to learn the hard way. I pulled my own self up. You gotta pull. Listen, man, we don't have time for that anymore, man. If we're trying to really build, you know, the caliber of man that the world needs right now, we don't have time to let folk fumble around and try to pull themselves up, man. Show them what they need to know. Tell them what they need to do. Show them how they need to live, how they need to process things, man, so we can get folk, in a better place quicker than people like me, that had to take years
That's
of
right.
trial and
That's
error.
right. Oh, man. I was teaching my daughter how to ride a bike today. And, it's been a while since I've tried to get her back. Now I'm kind of getting her back on the bike, trying to get her confidence up. And, one of the first things I had to teach her too was how to let the bike fall. Don't fall with the bike.
Hmm.
Don't worry about not getting it right the first time. Just let the bike fall, but don't fall with the bike.
That's
Don't
good.
hurt yourself, more than you have to in the process.
Indeed.
But also sharing stories. Hey, I didn't get it right. I did the somersaults even when I knew how to ride a bike. You ain't ride a bike unless you've had a good
Oh
somersault one time in your life.
flip over the front. Got to.
when and I've only done it once, but I mean, I remember that one time I'm
Mhm.
on that bike and I'm riding. I stopped too soon or did something, and I just saw myself flipping
Yep.
right there. I had the sound effects and everything,
Hmm.
and fell on the ground. And I'm like, "Woo, boy! I'll never forget that. You'll never forget those experiences."
Get it.
But
Yeah.
but also letting them know, listen, you're gonna fall, but listen, if you're gonna fall, this is how you do it without hurting yourself more severely, because we've got a lot of bumps and bruises. We can help you through that, but at the same time, it's also about teaching how to fall, how to balance,
Hmm.
and how to move forward. That's bike lessons.
Yep.
How to balance, how to let your feet kind of drive the bike forward while you're balancing all of that at the same time.
Yep. And I would piggyback off of that too, man, and just to with something you said, man, how to evaluate the fall, like post fall. Like a lot of
Yeah,
times we're trying to, teach folk. I came up in an era where it was like, don't fall.
right.
That's it. That's the only instruction. You better not fall. But I think we got to get to a place, man, where we realize that it's a journey. And
Yeah,
because it's a journey, there is going to be a certain level of trial and error.
that's right.
What do you do when that error comes? Do you sit in that disappointment? Do you woe is me type, thing? Or how do you evaluate that fall and that error in a manner that you will come out actually better, right? If you think about sports, right? We playing a football game, we take a terrible L, or even if we have a wonderful win, we're gonna be looking at tape afterward.
Yep,
What went wrong? What went well? Listen,
yep,
man, you were supposed to run this route. You didn't run that route. Next time, make sure you remember that. You know this guy is weak on his left side.
that's
We're gonna
right.
evaluate those errors and those falls in a way that when we get back out, because you're gonna get back out there. You playing
Hmm.
another game. You're getting
That's
back
right.
out on the field. You're getting back out on the court. So when you get back out there, the evaluation period that you were very careful about your analytics in that portion of time will help you when you get back out there to make better decisions. And that's the kind of stuff we got to tell these guys, man. You might not get it right the first time. You might not get it right the 100th time. But each time there's a certain level of evaluation and there's a certain type of evaluation that you should be putting in place so that the next time you make better decisions.
Yes, absolutely. And I read that book, Failing Forward by John Maxwell.
Hmm.
Great concept. There's other books out there just like that. Um, there's a book called The Power of Broke with Damon John. And again, all of these things, if you continue to feed yourself, even in your down moments, you keep reading books. I read through Audible because I drive a lot. I'm
Hmm.
out on the road a lot. I'm not even at my home studio right now. But one thing that helps me feed my mind is these Audible books,
Hmm.
and just being able to download one and just read right through it. And again, the concepts that come out of it, Grit by Angela Duckworth. I
Yep.
mean,
Yep.
you can go through this, and it's all about having that grit, all about having that perseverance of making it through, not about the failure. If you keep sticking to the failure part, then you'll never get over anything. You'll never move forward in progressing. So yes, we will beat ourselves up. Oh man, shoot. How did I do that? How could I have done that better? But that's all part of the evaluation. How could I have done that better? When I get to that part of how could I have done it better? Okay, let me try this. And it's all about, early age, you become a researcher.
Yeah.
You learn how to research how to do things better than you did before, and that is growing in manhood, and that is
Good.
accepting your manhood, accepting, hey, you know what, I'm not great here, so let me ask somebody that can get this done for me there. And learning how to resource. So it's not just researching and doing it better yourself. Sometimes it's just, how do I outsource what I need to get done,
Hmm.
just to make sure. And we've seen plenty of Cosby shows where Cliff tried to fix things he could not fix,
Right.
and and made a mess of things. And there are just some things I'm like, listen, I'm not an electrician, so I'm gonna need you to call this electrician.
Right. I'm not even gonna mess with it.
I'm not even gonna mess with it, and that's
And
okay.
that's a beautiful part of the definition of manhood is being able to recognize where the gaps are and where the
Yep.
weaknesses are, right? And those weaknesses aren't a reflection on you. Those weaknesses are an opportunity for you to learn and grow, or they're an opportunity for you to find someone that you can align yourself with that can lend a hand in that particular area. And that's
Oh yeah.
it's about having that level of discernment and recognition as it relates to what you bring to the table and what you, like you said, might need to outsource.
That's right. I own a house, own a couple, and it's like there's certain things I can try, but I haven't really been experienced at. I got a brother that has more experience. Hey man, can you come through and help me out here? As I watch, I learn.
Right.
So the next scenario comes, I'll know exactly what I need to do. So it's all about knowing who's around you, and that's why building your team around you is a great thing.
Mhm.
Not that you go find somebody you can take advantage of. You
Right.
find somebody you can learn from. You need people that you can learn from, people that you can grow with, and I think that's a phenomenal thing.
That's key.
Oliver Marcel, we're here, and so tell me a little bit about what you're doing. You're writing a book. Tell me some more that you have done, that you're continuing to do to really bring progress to this life.
Man, my wife and I, like I said, I'm in the midst of, I'm right at the tail end of this book for men. So hopefully that folks should start seeing something about that real soon before this year is out.
And once that book is done, you're back on this show.
Absolutely.
All right.
Without a doubt. I appreciate it, bro. That's what's up.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yes,
my wife
sir.
and I, we are very passionate about relationships. And so we have a company, Denali LLC, where we do marriage seminars, we do marriage coaching. We have also put together a couples journal because we're big on conversation. Anybody who's ever heard us speak have heard us say these three words: have a conversation. Very big
Yes.
on conversation. That being the catalyst to so many other things uh, as it relates to the health of your relationship. And so we put a journal together that is available on our site as well. But very
I actually
passionate
have
about
that
that.
journal.
Oh man, I appreciate it.
I
Thank
have
you,
that
bro.
journal, and it's an excellent resource.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. So that's what we're all about, man. I believe God is kind of not necessarily leading us in another direction because we're always going to be passionate about marriage, but I think He's
That's right.
allowing us to branch out on some things. And so I'm doing something for men right now. We're in the midst of a devotion that's almost done. My wife is very passionate about single mothers. She, being a single mother in the past, has a very deep passion for single mothers. And
Okay.
so she is in the midst of putting something powerful together for single moms as well. And so we're just, we're learning and growing. The whole point of this for us is to be transparent with every scenario, with all the situations in our lives, because we haven't gotten it right all the time. We've gone through some ups and downs, but what we want to let people know is that this is a journey and you can mess up and there's some things that can happen, but you can
Yeah.
still continue on the journey. And so that's been our goal, man, throughout all of these things.
I love it. I love it. So, what you have there is at Denali LLC.
Denali
Yeah.
LLC, that's where you can reach us on
Okay.
most social media platforms. If you don't remember that, just go to the website, Denali, DENOLI.org. And every way that you can connect with us, you can start right there. Um,
Denali.
Denali, O-R-G, Denali.org.
Okay.
That's the website.
Put that up there.
Yep.
All right.
D-E-N, yep, Denali.org. from there, you can connect with us everywhere else. You can get the podcast from there, the video series from there, the blog. Everything is right at that one set headquarters.
Yeah, definitely check out Have a Conversation. That workbook, it'll definitely spark uh, great conversations with your significant other, your wife, and we definitely want that as a support to your marriage, to your relationships. And again, it's all about developing who you are, and you look to different people. And I love your YouTube videos and your conversations you're having with your wife, and it's real conversations and stuff that we can always glean from and be able to benefit from uh, in the future. So please check him out, Oliver Marcel. I met him
Yeah,
years
in a minute,
ago.
man.
Like uh, I think I was at Andrews University in '99. I
Yeah.
got there in '99, so at least since '99 or 2000. So it's
Mm-hmm.
been
Yep. Coming up
20,
on 20.
21 years.
Yep. It's been a
So
good minute, man, and I applaud everything that you're doing, man, with the entertainment group and all of that, man. I just want to affirm you, and it's funny, man. In affirming you, man, it made me think of something. And um, for those that are listening, right, we've been talking about the definition of a man, right, and manhood, and we've been giving men all of this admonition. But I want to talk to the folk who those men are important to, whether it be their women, their children, their parents, all of the people that are in these men's lives. I implore you, affirm the man that's in your life. Because, yeah, we need to do all these things. Yeah, we need to have all of these ingredients. Yeah, we need to be mindful of all these different things. But at the end of the day, some of us carry those things so heavy, and
yeah,
we don't hear anybody saying, "Hey, I see you. I see what
yeah,
you're doing, man. Don't worry
that's
about
right.
that. I know
That's
you
right.
didn't get that right. It's cool. You got it." Sometimes we don't hear that, and we need to hear that as men. And so I just implore those that are watching, the men that are in your lives, your husbands, fathers, brothers, uncles, sons,
That's right.
affirm those guys every chance you get. Let them know you see them. Let them know you care about them. Let them know that, hey, you're destined for greatness. Stay on the track. Stay on the course. Keep pushing. Stay on the journey.
That's right. I love it. I love it. Great advice. Thank you, everybody, for watching. You can check us out, McGuire Entertainment Group. You can check out our website, McGuireENT.com. You can check us out on YouTube, McGuire ENTV. Please subscribe. On Instagram, McGuire ENTV. Twitter, McGuire ENT. Just check us out all over. Follow us. Make sure you follow my brother on his platforms as well, and you'll get some great resources. And this is what we're continuing to build. This is the Anchored Voice, helping men to anchor life. I'm your host, Dr. Phil 2. I'm here with my brother, Oliver Marcel, and we just want to greet you. Have a great day and stay anchored.
Indeed.
Thank you for listening to the Anchored Voice. For the video edition of this, subscribe to our YouTube channel, McGuire ENTV. For audio, listen on Podbean, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, or Stitcher. Until next time, stay anchored.